Before I get started today, guys, I just want to let you know I'm over on Patreon. This channel is completely demonetized. It does seem to be as if I'm on some sort of blacklist, so I don't think I will be monetized again. So I will do this until I can't. You know, that's just the honest truth about it. So if you want to give me a tip or show that you appreciate the work I do, yeah, I'll leave the link to Patreon in the description. Because the thing is, a lot of us are putting a lot of time, energy, effort, researching, pulling from various sources, putting together clips, editing. This stuff does take a lot of time. It may not seem that way. I guess the best way to tell is if you can listen to the first 30 seconds or so of someone's video and know what the entire thing is going to be about, just some loop of rants or, never really any substance or material or new information. I guess that's the best way to tell whether someone's actually putting time into it. Speaking of, thank you, Sea Siren Janine, for talking about this 6 months ago and, just accumulating all of the details surrounding this Acacia Kersey. And this is who I want to talk about. Janine accumulated all the genetic situation, their diets situation. And so a lot of people are saying this lady is vegan, and her family are vegan, and they're actually not. They're plant-based, and I believe she says this because it's more vegetarian from what I'm learning, although I don't think all of them, do the dairy as well. I know they all eat eggs from what she's saying. But this baby here, this little Rosie, she's unique. She's special. And she was having issues with failure to thrive when she was a baby. As you can see, she's fattened up quite a lot. She's 2 years old now. She's my baby's age, my little one, Oliver, as well as Owen. Again, America's baby, Owen. So they're born right around the same month, this baby a month earlier. I want to talk about the abuse or the neglect, rumors, and allegations surrounding this little Rosie baby, which is the middle child now. She just had another home birth, or a home birth, her third baby. She was able to do that one at home, and it was very beautiful. We'll get into that. But yeah, this little Rosie baby is now the middle child, and we all know middle child syndrome, that's a thing. Yeah, for sure. But this baby also has a genetic deletion issue. And I recognized it right away. I have someone in my husband's side of the family has a baby with this. And it can cause variation of issues. A lot of major organ issues. So this baby, Rosie, has had a heart surgery. It looks like she has a feeding tube in right now. It can cause some deformations, things like that. But overall, I think this baby looks pretty normal, pretty typical. So hopefully she'll be, she'll be okay. But one of the issues that is coming up is this baby, as you can tell if you watch any of the footage, they have to carry her around. They have to sit her in a seat. And if they put her down, she has to lay down. She can't hold herself up and crawl at this point. Like I said, she's 2 years old, so yeah, she's going to be developmentally behind, of course.
Syndrome is it's quite a lot of things. It's basically where your jagged one, okay, this is technical talk, I'm not a doctor, I'm just repeating what I had heard, but in chromosome 20, not the first of the set, but the second one, her jagged one gene is gone. She doesn't have it. It's been deleted, and that is what causes Alagille syndrome. But what's special about Rosie, which our doctors have never seen in anyone they've ever known, and they are currently trying to find someone else in their database or in the world that has had what she has. So where her deletion was in chromosome 20 of the jagged one, she has a duplicated gene of her Q. I don't know how doctors remember all this information, but the bottom part of her gene, or chromosome 20, has been duplicated to the top. Stay away from proteins just because it's harder for her liver and bile to break down, so which is a plus for vegetarian lifestyles. Currently she does drink milk, and she will have to drink milk for quite a while. I don't know what this means for a vegan lifestyle in the future, but she didn't have a vegan lifestyle currently, so we're not really too worried about that right now. or if ever. Let's see what else. But basically, she's on a new diet to help her gain a lot of weight, because now we know the cause of why she's not gaining weight, and this will help her grow a lot faster. So we're hoping to see a lot of progress within the next few months, which is so exciting. Switch to whole milk, and her formula has MCT oil in it. It's like a special brand just for like Rosie, basically. She's having so much fun over here.
Okay, so I wanted her to explain a little bit about the Alagille syndrome and talk a little bit about their diet, which has changed since then. They all eat eggs now, but back then they were mostly, prescribing the baby, but I think she had like failure to thrive, and that can be an issue with that syndrome as well. But they had to supplement a lot and make sure, there's no way that baby could have been on a vegan diet. And she actually needed, and still needs, in my opinion, meat-based foods, but they are still, completely vegetarian as far as that goes. I do want to talk about, in the future, epigenetics, because I think that's a very interesting topic. It's up for debate, I'd say, how much of a role these environmental impacts play on our genes and like the expressions. We know with like epigenetics, genes can turn on and off, and they can be expressed, and you may be like predisposition to have like these cancers or this or that, but you would never see them in your lifetime according to what is, what genes are turned on and off. So that's how like the environmental role, diet, like the plastics, just everything that is in our environments, all the toxins and metals, it is believed that they play a huge role, far bigger than we can imagine. Because like we see a lot of gene mutations nowadays, that's very common. But something like a deletion, the diet just cannot be ruled out, in my opinion. So these things are undetermined. We can't know for sure what's causing what, but something like a deletion, that's a very like advanced, extreme interruption in the development. And we know that the nutrients that we are aware of, play an extremely important role in the development of the human body and maintaining health and all of that.
I will put an egg on top or tomatoes, but we are going over to Jairus' parents' house. I'm pretty sure that his mom is making eggs, so I didn't want to double up on the eggs because I try to limit how many eggs I eat. So we're going to make this whole pregnancy, so we're taking a shot of iron to celebrate.
Cheers.
And a contraction to chase it.
So if you didn't catch the beginning of that, she said she's been anemic this entire pregnancy, and so she's taken some sort of supplemental liquid iron. And clearly, obviously, and I cannot believe you still won't eat any heme iron. But she's been trying to be vegan, plant-based for years now. It's only been the past like 6 months or so she started eating eggs. So maybe she'll come around to it. She's still really young, and that's another point Jenny made in her video. These are young people, 2 kids, now 3 kids, a lot of stress, dealing with a disabled child. This is a really huge stressor. And now they're going to have 3 children. So that's why I wanted to talk about some of this quote-unquote neglect, because some of this is just typical mom, it's typical parenting issues. And I don't take this stuff lightly, That's why you never heard me say, call CPS when I talked about Owen and Aga. I will never suggest that. So having gaps in your nutrition, deficiencies and malnourishment issues, it's only going to make everything so much worse. Not only like anxiety, stress, it makes, not having the animal fats you need to coat the nerves in your body, literally just help you remain calm and deal with these sorts of things. Every person who has left veganism or just has been heavily animal-based and cut out a lot of the on the processed, the junky crap out of their diet and ate more nutrient dense, knows how much more calm you are. Anyone who's eating keto, when you're not on that high carb roller coaster, you know how much calmer things are. You're more stable. Your emotions, your moods, you're better. You're more stable. So the hair looks wild because it's just a constant cowlick. It's part of the Alagille syndrome, and it's not enough hair to put in a ponytail. They talked about this, how they just had to cut it and, come to terms with it. The fingernails are one of the only things that stood out to me, because you actually have to neglect that for, them to start looking like this. And again, it could be just because maybe they are growing really fast and they're dealing with a lot, and this happened one time, you know what I mean? And then someone, of course, caught notice of it, because that's what trolls do, and they're using that as, but I haven't seen the nails look like this in any other video. So they talk about how she's eating on the floor and how that's a choking hazard. Well, the thing with this is, I think most of the time when she is sitting up, she has to be sort of propped up. It does seem like maybe she's getting to a point now where she can sit up by herself, but I think she was on the floor a lot, previously. And so this is just where she would be when she would be snacking. Otherwise, someone would had to have been holding her. If you notice, a lot of the people that will talk about these sorts of things and pick these mothers apart, they're not mothers themselves, so they don't really understand. They've never been in these situations. They don't understand having to juggle your constant, day-to-day routine and just everything with taking care of a child. Here they're saying she went out without a coat on. Oh my goodness, and everyone else has a coat on. Well, again, when you have a baby, and again, they wouldn't know this unless you have an infant that constantly has to be held or has to be sat and strapped in somewhere. You usually would have blankets around them. You would sometimes, put a jacket around them as well. But, like an infant sort of situation, you would be covering them and they would be wrapped up usually anyway. The rest of the complaints seem like nitpicking to me. People talk about her smoking weed. That, in my opinion, is nobody's business. You can think what you want about that. Then she talks about not wrapping Rosie's presents, and when pressed further on this, she just, explains that, like an infant or a baby, they, when they're too young, they don't understand how to unwrap and things like that. So, I don't know. What's the problem here? So, yeah. The newest allegations are that she gave birth at home and ignored Rosie while she was giving birth, while she was writhing in pain. Giving birth to a human, to another human. So again, I will explain that, when you're a mother, especially when you have more than one child, there will come moments in time when you are just busy. You're cooking, you're, cleaning, you're doing whatever, your hands are tied where you can't, you're always multitasking as a mother. You're always having to stop things. You're always having to interrupt projects and routines and whatever to tend to your child's need. They're always hungry, they're diapered, they're this or that, they're fighting. They want this, mommy, 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 mommy. So you get used to this, and you have to pick and choose which is more important, at that moment in time, because you will always, at the end of the day, you are always making as much time for them as possible. You're playing with them, you're interacting with them, you're loving on them, you're kissing, you're talking, you're reading books, you're feeding them, you're clothing them, you're preventing them from dying. Silly as this all sounds. But, yeah, so giving birth, giving birth is one of those times where you have to have others to help, to step in and help. And with a child like this, there's no way around it, which is why, this child is not old enough to walk and to go just play in the other room, which is why, even if she could, you wouldn't want that in a birthing setup, because There are going to be times where you just cannot tend to a child, another child, while you are birthing a human, another human baby, okay? So, so that is why she had her mother-in-law and a couple friends come over. And if you go and watch the birthing video, you will see that there is always someone holding little Rosie. She is not being neglected while her mother is giving birth. You know, if you're going to choose a time to say this, just how does this make sense to anyone? The extremes, the dramatics, I can't, okay? I cannot. And there was some accusation about being in the dark, a banana peel. I couldn't find any instant in the video where Rosie was in the dark. She's playing with the banana peel, if you look closely in her hand, while people are tending to her, while there are adults present. There's another point in the video where, with her older sister, she's pulled up and she watches a little cartoon. I mean, what more can I say? You know, we all exaggerate sometimes, but some people do it so consistently and they dramatize everything. You just have to learn to take them with a grain of salt, because you will never get a straightforward, logical answer about anything.
Sweet baby boy. Hi.
Hi, baby girl.
Oh, so pretty. Look at him.
Oh.
He's so happy to be here.
Oh,
Randy, what do you think? Rosie. Baby brother's here.
Just get it ready.
So, no neglect that I can see. A beautiful home birth that she was lucky enough as a woman to be able to experience in her lifetime. And I was the same. My third birth, I got to experience it at home. You know, the first two were at a hospital. And I was so proud. This moment right here, after it's all said and done and you're holding the baby and you're just overwhelmed with all these emotions and you're crying. I had a picture that I was so tempted to share because I had never been more proud of anything in my life. But yeah, I can see why women want to share this. It's like this beautiful, amazing accomplishment. So for me, it was too intimate. It was too personal. I ended up not deciding to share it. But like I said, I can see why other women want to. And my little boy, when I was giving birth, we had my mom come over to watch him at first, and we figured he would stay and they would all stay. But it was getting too intense, and I get to where I just want it to be a very small amount of people, you know. So we had our midwives and my husband and my daughter, and that was it. My mom ended up taking my little boy, and they went to her house. And he was, close to 3 at the time. I think now he probably could have stayed because he's closer to 5. He probably could have been more helpful than, just needing things the whole time and making messes and being upset because the attention wasn't on him, like a child. And now he's the middle child, and that's why they say that about the middle child, because the first child gets all of the attention in the world is on them. The second baby gets it up until the third baby is born, because when you have a baby, when you have an infant, that's where most of the attention is going to go, because they need diapers changed, they need to be held and nursed and all of these things before they're learning to walk. And so yeah, lots of attention goes to the youngest, but you do what you can as a mother. You try to space it out, you try to even it out. Now my middle child is at a point where he's becoming very independent. And sometimes I literally have to get my mom to come get the youngest one and just go spend the day with him so I can have some alone time with my middle son, because, it is hard. It's hard to balance all that out, but that's what family units do. They figure that out, and they try to do it as best they can. Now with Rosie, I would say her situation is unique because she has this syndrome, because she won't constantly need more attention and more care, just like the youngest would typically need all of the attention and care. So it's almost like this Acacia, she has 2 infants now. She has 2, babies. And she will have to balance that out. It's going to be tremendously hard. It is going to be so hard. But yeah, Rosie will get attention I would say at a rate that the youngest would get. So I don't even think she would have middle child syndrome. I love that they eat eggs, and being as she's changed that recently, I would say she'll probably change more, hopefully. I wish they were eating meat, And Rosie's, the weight that she has gained is absolutely due to the animal-based supplements, and I think they put a feeding tube in recently. I don't know why they had to do that, but they obviously felt like they needed to. Maybe she wasn't eating enough of the formulas and things they were trying to give her. But it would help tremendously if they would start feeding her fish, more animal foods. It's confusing for them. I mean, think about it, that she's talking about limiting the eggs because she really believes that lowering the cholesterol and all of this nonsense is going to help her. Yet at the same time, she's seeing and witnessing the opposite with her own eyes. That to grow properly, to develop, you have to have these animal foods. These nutrients that come only from animal foods. They're bioavailable, they're easily digestible. And of course, synergistically, all in one place. And here poor Rosie is eating SpaghettiOs the next morning. Empty calories, if you ask me. Surely this isn't a consistent meal, though. What's funny about it is I was trying to think back and remember what it was my husband cooked after I gave birth. Because I remember being like, oh, I want a really good meal. And he's like, oh, just stay in bed. And I was like, no, because you're just going to run to the store and get something frozen and throw it in the oven or open some canned spaghettis. I was thinking if her husband's anything like mine, that's probably what happened. Somebody else, was tasked with putting the meal together, and this is what they came up with. Which is crazy because eggs are easy to cook. Like, everybody should be able to cook eggs. So yeah, that's my video. Maybe in another year or so, we'll see that this family has realized just how important animal foods are. And none of them will be even vegetarian. And, Acacia won't have to worry about this anemia stuff, and they won't have to worry about all of these supplements. Hey y'all, I'm editing and making some liver right now. And I was going to leave this last one out. I just remembered I left out one of the accusations. I was going to leave it out altogether, but I figured somebody might bring it up. It was that she put up, Acacia put up pictures of the oldest Brindley on the wall, but not pictures of Rosie. And they think it was because, she just didn't like the way she looked. But I can tell you, as a mother of multiple children, you just, you start prioritizing what's more important, and the decor kind of just falls way in the back. So, the first child, you're, doing the nursery all up and the walls. And then you just end up getting so busy that you realize, oh my goodness, I've had 3 kids, and I still haven't updated our family portrait. I haven't even printed it out. I haven't even went and got one done. So, yeah, that could definitely be a possibility. So I wouldn't put too much thought into that one. So, y'all take care, and God bless.